Hey everyone, welcome to Ink Scribes, the comics podcast where we discuss the art and craft of comics. I'm Colin Singh, an aspiring comics artist and lifelong student of the craft. Joining me are my co-hosts Eric Zawadzki, artist on Assorted Crisis Events, out now from Image Comics, and Taylor Stauft, creator of From Fire and Blood, a Jason Jang adventure.
Yeah, that's right. And I also have a short story coming up in Faster Than Light, Volume 2, the sci fi anthology about family. Kickstarter link for the pre launch page is down below right now. It's written, drawn, and lettered by yours truly. So check it out.
Very cool. The first
Yeah.
time you're writing and drawing your own story.
It is. Yeah. On your push, I guess. I'm not going to say bullying, but push.
I heavily insisted you gotta start writing your own stuff because
Yes.
you got the chops.
How much of a hand did you have in the plot and everything for Jason Jang?
I came up with the basic outline, but the plot, not so much.
And that's the thing is that I saw in you a storyteller, someone
Yeah.
who can come up with this stuff, and I just have conversations with you, and I just know you've got a writer's brain.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate
So that's
that.
why I bullied you into it.
Well, remember, sometimes bullying works.
So this episode will be a little bit different from all the rest. I personally don't think I have enough art history knowledge, and I think my art is poorer for it. One of my goals with this show is to become a better artist by studying the greats. So in this episode, we came up with a fun exercise. We each chose a Golden Age illustrator to talk about. So we should maybe talk about with this we could have come up with like anything that spans all of art history, but we decided to mainly focus on Golden Age illustrators. So what do we mean by the Golden Age of illustrators?
Well, the golden age of illustration, I'll go ahead to say, it refers to this time period around the 1880s to the 1930s. It's got a huge list of like master artists who were illustrating magazines and comic strips and newspapers and stuff like that, because that was around the time of the advent of mass media, like the printing press and things like that. So artists like Norman Rockwell were doing magazine covers. There were comic strip artists that were, they may as well have been like Leonardo da Vinci level painters, but instead they went another route. But they were master artists nonetheless.
Yeah, check out our episodes on Winsor McKay for more information on that.
Yeah, there you go.
We're talking about Gustave Doré, Frank Booth, and J.C. Leyendecker.
So my pick was Franklin Booth. This is a new book that just came out from it came out probably a couple years ago from Flesk, and yeah, it's just a gorgeous book I bought last year. Just fell in love with the images I saw of Franklin Booth and knew I had to get this book. So Franklin Booth is one of the best pen and ink illustrators who's ever lived. And it's interesting we're Gustave Doré because it's seen that the foundation of Franklin Booth's art knowledge was based on a technical misunderstanding. When Franklin Booth was young, he studied the works of Gustave Doré and other engravers like Albrecht Dürer, and he tried to mimic with pen and ink the kind of line work that those engravers were doing by engraving.
Okay.
And so that's the foundation of his incredibly detailed, unique style.
Did he know he was doing it wrong, or?
Well, he was just a little kid.
Oh, okay.
I guess he finds out a little bit later.
Is he the true godfather of that style, like that line, that style that you get from ink? Like, this is because he's doing a lot of different things here, right? So in terms of like, say, Barry Windsor Smith is the first that comes to mind. The long hatch lines.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
that
good
was his
call.
thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I don't know too much about the man himself,
Okay.
Franklin Booth. I just went a little more in depth, like looking at at the art itself. I know a little bit, but I guess there's a potential that he could have become an engraver himself, but by the time he came of age, like there's the photolithographic process kind of came about, and there was less need for engraving.
Mm,
Mm,
right. Yeah, because that's kind of the theme throughout all of this, right? Is the changing technology kind of like pushes some people in and some people out as you go.
mm,
Man, like a couple months ago, we covered Frank Whiteley's Blackheart, and
right.
this stuff right here kind of reminds me of what
Yes.
Frank Whiteley was doing, where he was doing really thick lines for the foreground, and then kind of uh, um, broken up lines for the distant background, just to create that
Hmm.
like depth. So that's part of why I sort of started falling in love with Franklin Booth's work, because I see the Frank Whiteley influence, and Frank Whiteley is my be all end all like favorite
Yeah.
comic book artist. But
Can
let's
you go
go.
to Can you go to Taj Mahal if you have it there?
Oh yeah, I'll get to that. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
that was yeah. I just wanted to cover this quote right here, because this quote is basically one of the reasons why we're doing this episode. So, Franklin Booth, he co-founded the Phoenix Art Institute, and he taught. Yeah, he co-founded it in like the 1920s, and he taught there for like 2 decades. But one of his students, John Jellicoe, said this: I used to wonder where artists got their ideas and techniques. As a student in Booth's class, I found the answer. Brush elbows with the great, Booth used to say. The giants of the past sleep in our museums and public libraries. So you want to be a great artist, you got to learn about all the greats. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, as I said, that's the genesis of this episode. Is I, I'm very ignorant with a lot of the greats, and I really want to start learning. I'll become a better artist for it. And anybody watching here, you gotta learn about these great artists, because you'll become a better artist as well.
Yeah. Don't limit yourself to just one medium or style. Look into everybody. See what you can grab.
Mm.
So an essayist dubbed him the painter with a pen, which I found funny, because a couple months ago we covered the painter with a pencil.
That's right.
Right.
Gene the Dean.
Yeah, Gene Colan was dubbed that by his wife, I believe you said,
Sure was.
Taylor.
Yep. Yep.
So I mean, I guess she might have cribbed that from the painter with a pen.
Probably. Yeah.
Oh, actually, throughout this entire book, there's so much here, but early on, like one of my favorite pieces was right here, this one. I believe this was an illustration for an exhibit of his, which was inspired by a poem, which you can see the poem here. But Franklin Booth, speaking about his work, he said, "My purpose has been to produce, if possible, the sense of movement that is in all places."
I was gonna say.
And so
Yeah.
you'll be able to see that through all this work, that's his primary goal. He wants the viewer to see how alive everything is in what he's illustrating.
Yeah. Because it's a pretty static scene, and yet just
Every line
the
has a purpose.
yeah
It lives with a
Well,
purpose.
and that's
yeah.
interesting. In all of his body of work, in the majority of his body of work, I should say, figures tend to be the only static element. They're surrounded by forces of nature, and here you see like concentric circles in the sky. They're kind of, I guess, maybe symbolizing the wind, and then you see the wind affecting everything around the figures, and the figures are
Hmm.
just stoic and still. The drapery is moving, and you've got these towering clouds, and yeah, the nature is just beautifully rendered.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of thought put into how the text interacts with the art too, which is another reason why I think comic artists should study this work.
Oh yeah. I do want to actually draw a line from Franklin Booth all the way to Greg Capullo. This is something that I've heard Capullo in interviews say is even in a static scene, you should have something moving. Even if it's just the wind blowing hair, you should have some kind of movement to make it feel alive.
I'm picturing the alleyways in Spawn where there's just
Yeah,
garbage
Yeah.
flying through the air and
exactly. Yeah.
huh.
But like, over a hundred years between the
Yeah.
two men.
Yeah, so I mean he's clearly I'm sure he's studied a lot of the greats too. Want to look at this piece here. Something I adore about his work is the careful balance between extreme detail and negative space.
Mm,
He's very deliberate in choosing the appropriate spaces for the viewer's eyes to take in detail and for their eyes to rest.
Mm.
which is,
And
I think we can all agree, quite hard to do, right?
yeah, it's something I struggle with.
Yeah, yeah,
You
me
can
too.
just like go on forever adding,
Yeah,
but you have to be strategic with where to stop and where you want the eye to go is based on the maximum amount of contrast, which I'll show off in an upcoming piece. But before that, I want to say that he did do color work. He's primarily known for his pen and ink work, but he did do a little bit of color. So he did like there was this novel called The Flying Islands of the Night, and I guess the publisher of the book re-released it as the Franklin Booth edition, which had like 16 watercolor illustrations, and they all had this sort of vertical composition.
is anybody else getting a Magnola feel from these?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, a little bit. Like Mignola loves
Not only
the
that, actually, again, going back to Barry Windsor Smith, his Conan covers, like the one,
oh yeah, yeah,
the Conan Saga ones, like the color
yeah,
schemes and just the overall application. Excuse me, the
right.
overall application is much like this.
So Franklin Booth only really worked on like 4 books. For most of his career, he did magazine illustrations. Then he did a bit of advertising.
I'll
So
bet that's what's paying the bills
yeah, here we go.
for most of these guys, eh? Advertising
Yeah,
work.
and I believe he was pretty wealthy. This is back when
Okay.
illustrators could become wealthy. Like,
Yeah.
so,
The times.
so World War I hits, and well, actually, before that, I guess here's an example of a magazine cover he did. He's he became very well known for his clouds, I think.
Rightly so. They kind of look almost carved,
Yeah,
but not with a sense of heaviness, but just like they do kind of look like they're hewn out of something.
yeah, but yeah, because of the contrast with the foreground, like the foreground is so dark,
Mm-hmm.
and the detailing on the clouds is lighter. Yeah, it gives that cloud effect where it doesn't seem so solid.
Yeah.
Just expertly crafted. And then here's when World War I hit. So he had to do a whole bunch of illustrations for World War I.
Damn.
A lot of contemplative landscapes.
It's the
Um,
worst thing to ever happen to humanity.
yeah, and it's interesting because he could have gone a more negative route. He could have created like negative propaganda posters about the enemy,
Mm,
but his stuff was based mainly on the environments.
yeah. Yeah. I get that. Yeah.
Like, there's no demonizing of the enemy here.
No, it's just kind of the aftermath of what humanity has wrought, sort of stuff.
Yeah, where you get clearly a bombed out church there.
The sort of thing that you would summon, I don't know, say a demon child with a gigantic right hand in.
That happened in World War II.
Oh, right.
Know your history, Taylor. So yeah, after the wartime, he returned to his more romantic stuff because most of his stuff is, I guess, leans more into the I guess I
I
don't
think
know.
romantic is a good way
Romantic
It's
of
more
is
saying
the
fun
word.
to
it.
draw, right? It's more challenging. It's more enticing.
Well, it can be. It depends on your some people love drawing violence, I guess.
Well, but
Yeah,
the
but
world had just
he
gone
never did.
through a just an atrocious few years, right? Because on top of World War I, which is awful, there's also the Russian Revolution, the Armenian genocide. Like so
Mm,
many awful things have happened in like 4 years that it's no wonder that he would just be like, you know what, pastoral landscapes, yeah, that seems nice.
yeah.
Yeah, and he was all about the landscapes. I was going to say a little later that a quote from his, "I don't care much for what people call a view." He didn't need the most spectacular view that he could find. He found the beauty in everything around him.
Ah.
But Colin, you mentioned the building of the Taj Mahal. Are you aware of this
Oh, hang on. That's not the one that.
illustration?
Not that's not the one I was looking at though. There is another one. That's the building of the Taj Mahal.
Oh, right here.
Because
Sorry, right here.
right
Yeah,
there
my
you go.
bad.
Sorry.
He did a series depicting the construction of world famous buildings.
Right.
So
But
that
this
was
is
like this was one of what was this one?
so this was 1940. It's a Christmas card. And
Yeah, Notre
remember I was
Dame.
saying before that every line has a purpose in the sky and the clouds, the dome, and then the scaffolding, and then you see the planes on the elephant, right? Uh, the elephant has
Mm.
depth, and it's very. It feels like it's carefully calculated. I'm pretty sure he just kind of went in a certain pattern. I don't know. Um, he makes it look more complicated. It's probably easier than it looks. Um,
I mean, it's just monotonous. Probably that's the
yeah,
thing.
exactly.
I
And then
wonder
all the
though
wood on the floor.
if he finds that kind of therapeutic or meditative or something. You just get into this flow state and let the image reveal itself to you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you have to, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I've done some fairly detailed work in my day, and yeah, you just go through the motions, I guess. Yeah, I mean, it's not like I can remember every moment. You just sort of like, yeah, I guess you go through a Zen state, as you said.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Um, can
beautiful.
you say if he had any art assistants?
I don't know.
Because I know
Yeah,
Dory had differing staffs for differing processes of his art.
yeah, I'm not sure. So I should say with this book, um, a lot of his history is at the beginning, and then for more than half the book, you get a gallery of
Hmm.
everything. So here
It
we get
does
to
feel
see.
like as you go, you have to have assistance, right? Like
Yeah,
you'd have to.
Depends on how demand you become, right?
Well, yeah, like but these guys are all
I think.
in high demand and
I mean, I
they're
can say I'm not in high demand, but I've got like a monthly comic coming out, and I mean, I was saying earlier this week, I was saying to myself, like, I understand why people need assistance
yeah,
because there's just so much that you have to do that is keeping you away from the artboard.
right.
Yeah.
Because like owning a creator-owned comic is a business. It's a small business, and there's just so much calling you away. And yeah, it's tough. It's there's emails I need to send, and forms to fill out, and stuff needs to get sent to the printer, and all these decisions have to be made. And yeah, so speaking as someone who's not even really in demand, I can understand why almost any artist who's trying to produce work needs an assistant.
Hmm.
So make sure to support Eric's new book. Issue 3 is out now. Assorted Crisis Events,
Yeah.
so that he can afford an assistant.
Is this the is this the mid episode advertisement? Actually, issue 4 is out now in stores.
Bam! There you go.
Yeah. Contact your local
Issue
comics
4.
provider to order your copy today. Written by Dennis Camp from Marvel's The
The
Ultimate
Dennis
and
Camp.
DC's, yeah, the Dennis Camp, and DC's Absolute Martian Manhunter.
One of the best books coming out today.
It really is.
One of the most important writers in comics today.
Yep.
What do you guys think of these two pages?
This is
Ooh-wee.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is great. This is what I imagine Hobbes in Calvin and Hobbes views himself as.
Yeah, because this is one of the few examples I think where his figures are in motion. Because
Oh, yeah.
generally
Oh.
speaking, as I established before, the figures were very stoic. But
Do you
what's
think it's a
great about
still photograph? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, I'm sure he had I mean, I don't know. If I were to guess, he had a lot of reference, and he had a vision in mind on
Because a
because
lot
the
of them,
composition is very carefully designed, and
yeah.
I don't think if you have a vision of a perfect composition, it's very, especially an action shot, it's very difficult to have like perfect reference that you're just copying.
Well, I mean, it's just some of the poses seem genuine, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he's just a master, I suppose.
Yeah.
So
think it's
yeah.
more likely that
But that
he
tiger there, that tiger is the one
Yeah,
thing that's
and I
set
wanted to
apart.
comment on that
Yeah.
because you have
Sorry to
negative
interrupt,
space
man.
here,
Yeah.
and then you have negative space down here, and then just a massive detail in the middle.
Yeah.
Except right here you have negative space, and that's where the tiger is. So your eye goes to the most amount of contrast. The most amount of contrast is when you have a tremendous amount of detail and then no detail, or vice versa. And so your eye goes, like, you're looking through the page and it goes right to that tiger.
right.
It's like the stem on a strawberry. If you look at it, like it's kind of perched on top of that one spot of white. Blink and you'll miss it,
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah.
Which is
And like that's the
really
amount of thought he put into it.
clever, yeah. Because the tiger, if I'm understanding biology correctly, and I don't understand biology, their stripes are supposed to make them like blend into this sort of environment. So it's a clever use of like draw your eye to it, and then you see the cat in its like
Yeah, and
in
that's a
its
good point.
camouflage.
That's a good point because the fur does get more detailed as it gets further into the straw, but you have the negative space actually on, like you have white space on the tiger's face as well to have it
Well,
stand out.
one thing is
among
the
the
tiger's
fur.
fur is wet, so it's all going down, which helps it blend
Oh.
in with the weeds. And for some reason, the tiger is looking off screen. It's looking off the page. It's going.
Interesting.
It's looking off to the left for some reason.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of prey around.
Maybe.
Well,
and there's something in its mouth, I think.
And tigers, apparently, they don't like eyes. Yeah, there's like a.
Oh yeah,
I know, like
yeah,
you wear a mask on the back of your head
yeah, right. Yeah,
so that they
I
don't sneak
heard of
up
that.
on you because they can like, yeah, they catch eyes and they're like, oh nope, never mind, you saw me.
And yeah, we have this one as well, which yeah, just great at drawing tigers.
That's great.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love the negative
this-
space we have there.
artistically though, I mean, Eric, I know more so for you, but like how you fill books full of hands, books full of faces, books full, like he must, like his forays, his odysseys into like animals. I hope they're out there somewhere.
Oh
Right?
yeah, and I guess
Oh my god.
Colin, you're referring to like when I got really obsessed about like getting better, I bought like 10 sketchbooks.
Yeah.
And I basically filled an entire sketchbook with arms, and then filled like life drawing of arms, and then filled an entire sketchbook of life drawing with legs.
Exactly.
And I think if you want to get better at drawing, you got to treat it like going to the gym. And like I had leg day. I had arm.
There's no shortcuts. The price must be paid. That's something
Yeah.
also I want to say to the audience, and it's
Think
something
those
I
hours
struggle
in.
with personally too.
That's
till
a
this
great way
day.
of putting it. Yeah.
But actually that for any artist that is on the cusp of getting better or whatever, and maybe their figure work isn't quite there, that is my number one advice: is take a year, buy 10 sketchbooks, and treat it like going to the gym.
Yeah.
And I promise you, if you treat your week like going to the gym, and you have leg day where you just Wednesdays you just do life drawings of nothing but legs, and Thursdays I guess you draw the entire figure, do gestural stuff, and arm day, face day, break down like your favorite artists, like your three favorite artists, break down how they draw faces. If you dedicate 12 months to a workout routine like that, at the end of those 12 months you will be hireable. And that's just my recommendation. Is, as Colin said very astutely, you have to pay the price. You have to put that work in.
Yeah. The price must be paid. There are no shortcuts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's look at some more cool art. Yeah, a very alive environment. You have a lot of birds showing up here, and they're like going through a path, it seems. And these buildings kind of disappear into the clouds. So yeah, very cool. And let's jump ahead some more. Yeah, so again, like a sense of movement that is in all places
I was
was
going to say the
his
trees.
goal.
That
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
you
can
know,
feel the wind
feel the
affecting
wind.
everything in this piece.
Exactly.
In their hair, the trees, like the trees. Yeah, that's a good call, Colin, because that's like, you can feel the wind. And
And
again, the
that's
figures are stoic.
and that's what this is about, right? Is you can feel the wind from a static 2D
Yeah.
black and white image. Like that's
Yeah.
not something that really should be possible, but if you're good enough, if you do it right, you can elicit that feeling in a person.
I think it's possibly a reach, but the alignment of the flock of birds on the left too lends itself to the movement of the trees because it's slanted at the same angle.
No, I think
Yeah.
you're right. Yep. That
I
feels
think
very
everything's deliberate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kurosawa, the wind goes this
Yeah.
way and everybody else goes with it sort of thing. Yeah.
Rehearsed for days before one single celluloid shot was made.
Goddamn
Usable
right.
shot. Yeah.
So right here, have you guys ever used Scratchboard before?
I have in high school. Yeah.
Very briefly. It
It,
was
it's challenging.
aggravating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
was
because you
gonna
kind of have
say.
to think in a negative sort of way.
Yeah, in the reverse. Yeah, it's
But I think he used a mixture of Scratchboard, like a combination of Scratchboard and Incline. You can tell by looking at this tree right here
now
that
that's interesting.
this was all black, and he scratched the detail in.
Mm.
Right.
But it
White
looks like
out.
down here,
Yeah.
this was Incline. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Huh.
definitely a combination of the two.
Do you think
Yeah.
he picked? No. I was gonna say he might have picked up excess ink off with a sponge for the top part of the tree, but it looks hatched out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I've played with Scratchboard a little bit in like a high school art class way back when.
Mm. Yep.
And I didn't take to it. I'll say that. But I mean, this requires a lot of experience. I probably would have taken more to it in my 20th or 30th try.
It's the sort of medium that I think there are people who are just like it just clicks for them immediately, and I kind of like because I knew a guy in art school who just like I really enjoy using Scratchboard. I'm like, man, then that is all you. I am staying
Yeah.
over here because nobody needs to see my sad attempts at this.
Can
So,
you go to the Dream of the
oh,
Fair
sorry,
Woman?
just a second.
All right, sure.
So,
Go ahead.
uh, yeah, as I said before, he's probably most famous for his towering cumulus clouds. This sort of epitomizes what I was saying before, with like where he said, I don't care much for what people call a view. Um, this is just like just a regular sort of stroll, and he just finds everything beautiful. Like around his time, like biking was in vogue, and he preferred to walk. He loved to walk and hike because he wanted to observe everything around him.
Well, you never know how those velocipedes are going to angry up your blood too, so you got to
Yeah.
stay
Wait, those
vigilant.
what?
Bikes used to be called like velocipedes.
Velocipedes. I haven't heard that.
It's like an old timey word. For
Is that what they
it.
called it in that one episode of Deadwood?
Might be.
The
Let
way
me
he does clouds
see.
reminds me of Casper Frederick. You know,
I'm not familiar.
Yeah, me
that
neither.
one
Who's
that
who
one
is that?
painting. No, as soon as you see the painting, you'll know. If you guys yourselves want to Google, what was the name of the painting? Sea of Fog, something like that, by Caspar Friedrich.
Oh, yes, yes. It's like the
Do you
guy with
see
the
it?
back to you, and
Yes, that's
it's
the one. That's the one. That's who I was talking about. Yeah, I don't know his
okay.
work very well, but every time I've seen Booth do clouds, I immediately think of that figure overlooking the clouds.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, I knew you guys would know as soon as you knew.
yeah. Because it's been popping up. It's having a weird resurgence lately.
Yeah, I actually saw that as an aside. I actually saw that painting in this book because I
Holy
really
shit!
wanted to start learning about art. Which, yeah,
What? Go on. What is that book?
it, it's very quickly. It's basically just an entire art history in one book,
Oh wow.
Okay.
and just because I wanted
Well,
more general
the
knowledge.
I saw the Florence Baptistry doors. Okay. Oh, there's that James Bond painting.
James
Let's
Bond.
start with the
Yeah, it was the tugboat thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got everything. So I
Wow.
haven't looked at it too extensively, but I that one painting you brought up, I did
is that
see it here,
Tashin?
and it is
Yeah, actually Tashin
DK.
likes to showcase. Oh,
Oh,
DK, yeah, they do those, those high school books on like medieval times and stuff like that.
Mm.
Medieval weapons or Star Wars weapons, those types of books.
Yeah.
okay, so here, yeah, just showing a lot of this stuff from here on. I'm just gonna point and say, "Wow, look at that's super cool." Uh, um,
One of the great things about both of the guys that you have chosen is they are using not necessarily just like negative space, but like the contrast of like they're not afraid to do high contrast when they need
yeah.
Mm.
to pull your eye. It's something that I always think, is this too obvious? Am I doing too obvious of a thing? And then you see these guys think, no, I could be more obvious. It's still fine.
uh, So yeah, I mean he was known for his parallel lines that run perpendicular and also like curved lines that run perpendicular, and that's like, you know,
Yeah.
very obvious in this piece. But yeah, all throughout just like perpendicular lines. This one's
That's the
very
one I
cool.
wanted you to stop
That's
at.
great.
That's the one
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
the Dream of the
this
Fair
is
Woman. I think that's kind of like what's the word? Like a cover piece. That's any sort of portfolio you wanted to present, that would take the cake.
Absolutely. Yep.
yeah, definitely. So that was a magazine illustration, I believe. Um, yeah, and just like a regular scene right here. It doesn't have to be an outstanding view,
Yeah.
just like
Just
suburbia.
Anytown, USA.
And yeah, just like his famous clouds just everywhere. That's like his trademark.
Do we know what went in these blank spaces? Were these just like places for articles or something to go into?
Or
Uh,
prose.
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I guess these were for magazines, so probably.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm not entirely sure.
That fucking rocks.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
cavernous
That's so Indiana
cathedral.
Jones.
Yeah, it is.
yeah. Just and a lot of this is just sort of like mostly black and then dots to
Yeah.
give the sense of detail.
The
Just
one on the
crazy.
left grabbed me just because the figure just kind of like, what'd you say to me? From the distance, highlighted,
Yeah.
and this like, what? Huh? And I find
What?
myself
Who? Me?
in a round of fisticuffs in this church.
Yeah. Let me see this one. What do you think of this like war image of like the Grim Reaper
Yeah.
as they're marching into war? Just stunning.
I
I
feel
would
like I've
say this.
seen this referenced a lot, right?
Well, I would
Yeah.
say that
Totally.
there's a clear influence from Doré here. If you look at Doré's biblical work or
That's a good
his
point.
literary stuff, if he
Yes,
drew from
yes.
Doré, then definitely his Grim Reaper has an influence from Doré.
You know, that might
Um.
be the first time I've seen a Grim Reaper who's actually holding wheat, which is the point of the scythe.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. I guess
Yeah,
over time the wheat imagery went away and it just became all
yeah,
about the scythe.
scythe. Yeah, because
Right.
it's like you're supposed to kind of like hold it. There's two handles on
Yeah,
one side, and you're supposed to like swing it. I don't know. You can kind of see it in the
they're
Weird
kind of
Al
fun to
video,
use.
uh, uh, Amish Paradise,
Yeah,
but that's the only place I've seen it used. But it would make sense because, like, well, that's what you're doing with the wheat. You're reaping it.
yeah, yeah.
Huh. Yeah. So here's another example of clearly scratchboard used.
Oh, damn!
Because
That's
yeah, that was it started off black and he's just like putting in the white.
Was
this
this a
feels like
Kickstarter book?
something. Oh,
It might have been Kickstarter, but you can get it anywhere now at any
Oh,
bookstore.
really? Okay, cool.
Yeah, because I think Flesk they always start off doing Kickstarter, and then it eventually goes mass market. They I ordered this from Flesk the same time I ordered that Arthur Adams book.
oh,
Hmm.
nice.
Was there a sale on something?
No, it's just for shipping. You got to justify the
Yeah.
shipping cost by getting multiple. And I saw a Franklin Booth book and like, oh, got to get that. Sorry, what were you saying, Taylor?
Oh, just that this feels like something that Joe Kubert would have pulled from during
Oh, I'm
his
sure of it, man.
war comic days.
100%.
Yeah, just like this
Because
over imposing of kind of, I don't know, the spirit of war or the specter or something.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think he got a lot of stuff from Booth to fill space because he did like thousands of covers and how to make like
Yeah.
a battlefield look interesting time and time again. Even from panel to panel when he was doing sequential work,
Hmm.
he had this mental catalog of just dead body, like dirt and tire treads and going this way and that way, like the whole thing. So
Yeah.
yeah. I'm looking forward to doing a Joe Kubert episode, which like that's one of your
that's gonna
favorites,
be
right,
like a
Colin?
that's gonna be a 10-parter, bro. It's gonna be like a 10-parter. And we're gonna pull.
Look at how complex this is.
Oh wow.
Damn. Yeah.
And
This
just how this
is,
figure merges with the sky.
which I feel
Um,
is always a lot more difficult than you'd think. You think it's going to be easy, and then you
oh
get there and you're
yeah,
like, why would this solid figure just evaporate at the edges?
Hmm.
yeah. Just how much is enough, how much information is enough, and how much is too little.
Yeah.
But another thing that he's great at creating these ornate frames,
Yeah.
which
So he is doing that.
Hmm.
oh yeah, it had to be him. And then yeah, well,
Okay.
here's another example of the ornate framework. Yeah,
Wow.
and then let's see, let's round this out. This is the cover of the book, Silent Symphony. Um, so that was an advertisement for Home and Garden. So I should say in like the
Home and Garden.
yeah, in the 1920s he started doing some advertisements, which I think I had an example coming up. Yeah, just like I could stop at everyone. I just recommend people pick up this book just to see everything. Like, holy crap, look at this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There
And
should be a good catalog of high resolution images out there of his work too, just to
Yeah,
let
there's
the
gotta
audience
be,
know. If you
right?
want to do some ink studies and stuff, I'm sure there's some pretty high resolution stuff for you to take from.
yeah, and yeah, here the final image. I guess this is called The Road to Wellville. So I guess that speaks for itself.
What? The
I guess
road to Wellville.
just go on a hike. You'll feel
What's that
better.
from?
Yeah, I don't know. It's
Oh,
not labeled, but right here it says The Road to Wellville.
Mm.
so when was this? This is the 18 somethings.
No, the 19.
Yeah, I mean,
When did he
if
pass?
this isn't dated, but if I were to guess, this piece would probably be the 1920s or so, maybe.
Okay, so this is around the time that the concept of camping, for lack of a better term, is getting popularized due to
Could be.
what is called Americanitis, the daily stresses of living and working in a city 9 to 5, 5 days a week. So thank God we solved that. And this is one of those early remedies for it. Is take some time, return to nature, like go camping, take a walk in the woods, just really get away from the city.
Yeah, and clearly he was a nature guy.
Yeah.
So, and I guess I didn't touch on this before, but I mean, it goes without saying that like his work oozes atmosphere, and he's very good at creating that atmospheric effect where like the distance fades away because you get like a very solid foreground, and you get the impression of just like how distant this center area is just through pen and ink, just like how carefully he's putting he was mixing black with white.
And how he uses it
Because
to frame things too.
yeah, and that's an important thing to say is you get the sense of gray, but there is
Yeah.
only black in there and white on here. It's the manipulation of black and white and how much you put in and leave out to create this illusion of gray. And to your point, Taylor, yes, the framing of these figures is just so well done.
I
Mm.
also like the kind of vaguely, I don't know if you'd call it, it's almost fantasy like. And I've seen it pop up in a few of that you've flipped through. He does have this kind of
Yeah,
fantasy
specifically for that
city in
fantasy
the,
book.
yeah, in the far distance. Like he doesn't seem to be doing a detailed rendering of it, but he does seem to have this concept of like the white city of spires or something.
Yeah, and I should say here's the General Electric advertisement, which I was looking for earlier, and
Ah,
look at how he's blended the logo with the.
yeah.
It's just so complex. So yeah, I recommend picking up the Silent Symphony, but
You cannot get
we
that
should.
on Amazon or Indigo if you're
Oh,
Canadian.
it's sold out.
Both ways, yeah.
Oh, interesting. Well, maybe you can get it in the aftermarket. Highly recommended.
It's a couple $100 on
Good
the
luck.
aftermarket.
Oh no.
I don't want anybody to get their hopes up. I'm just saying it's an expensive
What
book.
about the
Otherwise,
Flask
I would own it.
website?
So
Is it on
Go to
the
your
Flask?
local comic shop or comic cons and check out the art book section. There's usually
yeah,
a table
yeah,
with them.
you'll always get a gem from there.
So yeah, Colin. Yeah, your pick was Gustave Doré.
Gustave
So I
Doré,
guess
yeah.
I should say that this episode is designed so that we can all teach each other about each of the artists we chose because I am embarrassed to say I don't know much about Gustave Doré.
No, neither do I. Yeah, I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to learning
Well,
more.
I mean, it was first of all, Eric, it was your idea to do this episode, and as soon as you picked Franklin Booth, like it immediately brought me to Gustave Doré. I just discovered Doré like a couple years ago. I'd always heard the name, but I never really got into it. But our mutual friend Dave, um, he has a book on Doré, and I came across it on his shelf one day, like back around the pandemic time, and I just like got sucked right into his whole life story. I wikied him. I looked up all his. I got his book here, Scenes from the Bible. This one was just recently printed. I
Ooh,
think it's part
nice.
of a trilogy with Paradise Lost or Divine Comedy, something like that. There's two
Oh,
other books.
cool.
One's like all in green, one's all in red. I don't know too much about that line, but the Bible painting specifically really like brought something out in me artistically. So yeah, so that's why I picked Doré. So to get into Doré first, I think chronologically even Doré obviously comes first before the other two artists, Franklin Booth and J.C. Leyendecker. So this is the first episode in a long line, hopefully, that we're going to do on the golden age of illustration and the whole list of artists that were around that time. Uh, in this case, Gustave Doré. The format of the episode itself, I don't like. As soon as I knew about him, I want to be upfront. All I had to do was Google him, and I knew everything about him. So, and plus, not only that, but I got a lot of high resolution images of his work from the Bible and from the Divine Comedy and all those major works that he's done, Don Quixote, The Raven. But it was really difficult to find stuff from like this guy. I'll get into it later, but he was a prodigy from the age of 5, and there's
Wow.
drawings out there where he was already drawing backgrounds in his art. You know what I mean? Like fully realized artwork, and I couldn't find any images of that stuff. Okay, so the first image on the right here on the top upper right corner,
Yeah.
you can see the
Oh,
very
wow.
first illustration there is of him. This was illustrated by one of the other artists who were working for this newspaper called, oh damn,
Petit Journal
yeah,
pour
Petit
les.
Poirier, yeah,
Yeah.
Petit Journal Poirier, and Poirier is English for in jest. So this was basically a
Okay.
glorified comic strip or a newspaper strip with illustrations that had to do with anything from politics to just funny shit. And he basically came across this. He got this job at the age of 15 because he moved. Uh, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but his dad was a engineer, and his mom saw that he was an artist, that Gustav was an artist, and she really supported him in being an artist. But his dad was totally against it. So at the age of 15, he ended up moving to Paris, and he started hanging out at this publishing house. And I'm imagining the vibe of the publishing house being that of like either a Marvel bullpen or even just a comic shop. Like he was there all the time, and
Probably, yeah.
he showed some illustrations to the publisher. I think his name is Charles Pupillon. And I really don't want to pronounce the names because I feel like I'm gonna butcher them all. My French is so shitty.
We
But
all got cereal box French,
yeah,
man.
so
Come on.
I'm gonna speak very generally when it comes to the French names. But the publisher, he showed the publisher some drawings, some reproductions of what been published before, and he got a job, which he pretty much kept for his entire life from the age of 15 to when he passed away. He was always doing
Oh,
illustrations for this paper, this comic strip paper. And I consider him like this was around the time where printing presses were becoming a thing and wide distribution. So even if you had money, it wasn't just down to politicians who had money, but just anyone like rich aristocrats who had money, and they had the axe to grind with like some politician or just whatever social issue is going on. They're like, hey kid, I'll pay you, I don't know, $5 to do to draw a picture of the prime minister or some president with a big nose, like a giant nose and stuff. And that's when this sort of thing really started to spread. And this is how comics generally like gain popularity from this point forward. This was the ground zero for that.
you hear that,
um,
rich people? We will draw shit for you. Don't ask AI for it. We'll do it.
yeah, I envision like in my head it's so random, but like you remember I was just watching Jurassic Park the other day, in
Right on.
not in preparation for this episode, but Grant's
Because it's a
holding
fucking rad movie. That's
the
why.
dinosaur hatching out of the egg, and he's looking at it, and I kind of regard this period, the 1800s, as like the period where comic books and what the media that we as we know it today was kind of blossoming. right?
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so
Because this is like the time of uh, because of various religious factors and education
yeah,
factors, literacy is spreading real quick,
mm,
and it's this void that somebody wants to fill. Like, oh, you want to read? Sure, we got stuff for you. You can't read
yeah,
that well? Well, we got drawings to go along with it.
yeah,
Yes, the
and
printing press that helped all that, right?
yeah,
That and weirdly enough, Presbyterianism, because it was
Oh,
focused on its adherents being able to read the Bible themselves. Uh, it, as a religion, specifically focuses on literacy.
right.
see, this is what I'm talking about, Taylor. You've got a writer's brain because you've got general knowledge that I do not have.
It's common sense, really. How could you not
No,
know?
I mean, there's a lot of factors, right?
Yeah.
But
So again, out to the audience, this PDF that I've compiled here, the very first image already speaks to the caliber of his work, right? This guy was a complete master. This was Adam and Eve getting cast out of heaven,
this is
or cast out
fantastic.
of Eden.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, this is the epitome of his stuff. Like I said, I've got this right here. This is for me. This is like I clutch this at night like a teddy bear when I sleep. Really, I again preparing for this episode. This art, I'm telling you, this art. If you look through this book, it will evoke something in you that you like. I want to do something like that. Like I want to. It's very inspiring work, and I mean his life story. It's not necessarily Ulyssean, but he was definitely a child prodigy. Like I said before, from the age of 5, his mother could tell that he was something else. And I can't like it's a crime that I know there's got to be something out there, that shows. I'm sure. I hope in my lifetime I can see it. Um, but from 15 onwards, his overall career is pretty well documented. You can find all of this stuff if you just Google it. So, like I said, he got a job. His first job was at the newspaper Poirier, which is In Jest journal. And these are some of his strips. Eric, if you want to flip to the next page, I
Just
actually
so it's
think
just like
I actually think some
so
of
it's just
these are.
filled with like japes and gags and
Yeah, I mean, it's basically whatever the publisher told him to draw. He was 15. It's like, hey,
oh okay.
hey, kid, draw this guy that looks like a stupid idiot, and just hang a sign off him that says, down with the Reds. You know what I mean? Like,
Man,
anyway,
at age 15, he was drawing this?
yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think
that's
actually the first image
crazy.
on the left, the top one, I think that's his first published work, and then the others, everything else comes later. I'm pretty sure that's how the timeline of everything here. But this,
Wow.
yeah, he's one of the first comic book artists. Essentially, he's one of the first comic artists. Period. Um,
Sorry, around what year was this?
this was 18. Hang on, all that stuff I've got written down here. So he was born in 32. So this was from 47. 47 onward to
Oh,
83. He passed in 83, 1883, at the age of
Hmm.
51. And he lived with his mama until she passed away when he was 49. So the last
that
2 years
makes
of his life was quite. He was quite depressed, and he did die of a heart attack at 51.
the amount
Um,
of change this guy would have seen in his life. I am no
yeah,
doubt he is depressed. Like Paris in the 1800s.
yeah.
Wow.
There hasn't been an actual really great documentary on this guy's life. I actually actively looked out for it to,
Oh,
to
that's too
save
bad.
myself the time, but there wasn't really
Yeah.
anything. Yeah. So anyway, okay, let's move on to the next stuff. So obviously, one thing that stuck out to me in this guy's life is that he didn't get the respect he felt he deserved, even as a painter. And there's some. If you go to the next one, Eric, just flip over. So that one on the right there, that's Andromeda. That's a painting he did. And then the one on the
Whoa.
left is, I believe it's Paradise Lost, with Michael casting out the Lucifer and his followers.
A third of the followers. Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
So, I mean,
Look at
again,
the.
this is right here, well, how did this guy not get the respect he deserved, as
Yeah,
he
like
thought?
look at the value that he's getting out of black and white. Like it's all it's all different, just tones of gray, but it's also distinct too. That's amazing.
Well, so into his 40s, he like it became a thing where he did his own private exhibition. I think it was a private exhibition, but it was an exhibition of his work for a few years, and it was all painted work. And even though it was critically acclaimed, he still like for some reason it was not seen as a success. And I have a hard time reconciling stuff like that. When I'm reading it, I'm like, how is this even possible? Like,
I think I know why. I think I might know why.
Yeah.
I think because art is kind of moving away from just in general, especially in France, it's moving away from the more representational stuff, and you're getting a lot more like Monet, Manet,
oops.
impressionist guys. You're getting a lot
Oh yeah.
more. You're getting
Mm,
Van Gogh, like people just trying to like, okay, so we
mm,
can reproduce the human form perfectly. Let's
mm.
push at the edges and find
Right.
where art stops.
Yeah.
So
And
he
that's
was either too late or too ahead of his time, because
that's kind of sounds like, yeah,
they say every art movement is a reaction to the previous art movement,
yeah,
and so maybe he was more
Maybe he was
representative
too
of the
good,
previous
and
art
they
movement.
reacted negatively, and so it went.
yeah,
You
probably,
know.
yeah. It's just like he just didn't hit at the right time, and he may have also have seen like what's popular, being like, really, this? Come on,
Yeah.
guys! Like, look at Andromeda I got here, and
Yeah.
like that's a classic painting
Yeah.
and subject matter.
Yeah.
Do you guys know how it was created? Like, what are his tools of choice?
I didn't actually look into that because you just said that Booth was he was inspired by his work, so I thought you would say something smart about
Well,
it
I mean,
later on.
I don't know much, but he was
Yeah.
Doré was an engraver, right?
Yes, well, that's the other thing. Financially, he was a huge success too, right? He had a career his whole life. He had money his whole life. He even had a staff of like 200 engravers for his illustrations. He ended up doing over 10,000 illustrations over his entire career, from the age of 15 to
What?
51.
Whoa!
10,000. So,
Holy
and they're all
shit!
like this. I mean, there's the newspaper stuff, obviously, but like when he got into the Bible, Dante's Inferno, like all these classic tales, which are, important to the Western world, uh, his illustrations are how we perceive hell. His illustrations are how
Yeah,
we perceive, what Jesus looked like in our modern time, and that sort of thing. How could he not like? How could he not? He's one of those tragic artists in like a long line of artists who they're not appreciated until after they pass away, right?
yeah.
Like now, like his work will stand the test of time. It's really unfortunate when he can't realize that success in his own lifetime, right? So
But he was wealthy at least, right?
yeah, he had the money. Like he 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 continuously produced and he was continuously remunerated. Like
So
he
this
never
guy's just
starved.
yeah.
He
So
was
he's
he came from an affluent family to begin with. His dad was an
yeah.
engineer
Oh, okay.
who never wanted. He passed away when he was 17, and he never wanted him to get into art. But his mom really pushed him, and then 15, when he turned 15, she moved him to Paris, and he just started hanging out at publishing houses and showing his work around, and he just got in. But she saw something in him that obviously she was right.
Oh yeah.
And he did end up living with her until she passed away when he was 49 too. So
Which I
um,
will say, I feel like might make more sense in the context of the time period. He doesn't get married or anything, right?
uh, I I don't think so. No.
It just because I know that like here that is considered weird, but in Europe it's a lot like, and especially in the
Yeah.
past, it is a lot less strange. It's just like, well, where are you going to go? Like your
Yeah.
house is where your clothes and bed live more than anything. You don't spend time there.
Yeah.
So
So, Eric, can you move forward another slide here? I just want to. So now that you guys have the gist of his life, we'll just go through
I
some of his
fucking
masterwork.
love
So he
the
did Don
lightning
Quixote.
coming up.
Yeah, yeah. So he did
Jesus.
Don Quixote, which I think is the next slide. Yeah,
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the one on the left is Dante and Virgil. They enter
Hell
the
yeah.
ninth circle of hell.
Yeah,
But
wow.
look at his paint. Like it.
Oh,
Look at
frozen
that.
in at the ninth. Okay. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And then if you go ahead, one more, Eric. So here we got more from. That's the. I believe that's the creation of Eve.
Right.
And
Like
on the right, yeah,
stepping out of Adam. And then that's the I want to say it's called the Empyrean or something like that.
I feel
Paradiso.
like that's one of his most
Okay.
famous works
Yeah,
because I've
that is.
seen that
Yeah,
one.
that is. It's pretty much if you type his name in, that's what comes up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah,
like they're about to
Geez, how
ascend to
big
heaven.
do you think that is?
It's
and
got to be enough,
I mean
right?
these just came out. These just came out. I think last year or just this year. So these will be in print for a while. They're from
Yeah.
Serious Press.
Oh my
And
god.
like again, it's huge. Like the artwork takes up the whole page. The paper is really nice. It's nice and soft. And this one obviously reprints excerpts from the Bible as well on the left side, and then the plates on the right side. So yeah, pick these up. We'll have at least the link to this one. I gotta find out what the other two were called again. In the description.
Yeah, I quickly looked. I do know that Paradise Lost is one of them.
Mhm. Oh, and then go back one, Eric. Sorry, or go back forward. Sorry. Okay, so
Oh,
here we've got so one of the last things he did was The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. And the one on the left here is from The Raven.
Damn.
And then the one on the right
I
is from
really
The
love.
Crusades. He
I really love
illustrated
that
the
the
Crusades.
he left the jaw off the bottom of the skeleton. That's
Mm,
I love when that
yeah.
happens. Like it
But
you
because
think?
they're not connected.
I don't want to take too much more time, but in this one on the left from The Raven, his artwork is a lot more softer. There's a lot less engraving.
Oh yeah,
He's
good point.
employing a lot more of, I don't know if it was watercolor or like dry like or some kind of smudging or what, but his backgrounds fade out quite quickly in his later
Hmm.
work. And then if you want to go to the last one there, Eric, if you just flip one more. So this one is a I can't remember what it was called, but it's a biblical one. There's Jesus there in the middle. Can you expand that?
You know what
Yeah.
is this? This is Christ about to take the cross, I guess,
Right.
or something.
Something along those lines. It's the title was in French, and I don't want to butcher it.
Ah, okay.
So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, like this was one of his way later works. Like before he passed, a couple of years before he passed away, he got really seriously into major works, literary works like the Bible and Don Quixote and stuff like that. But like he wanted to be taken seriously, and it's well documented that he did. And I don't understand why. I honestly don't. Like, what do you have to do in the 1800s to be considered a master, of your craft?
I think might be also part of it is that he is the tastes of people are kind of running towards like they want reflections of the world rather than stuff that they already know about.
Mm.
Like this is when landscapes become very popular, and I think they're
But
called
I mean,
genre paintings. But
Taylor, like when you look at this though, you don't just look
oh,
at
I
it on a
agree.
biblical
No, I
level.
know.
You also think of it in a technical level. Like, how did
Oh
he
yeah.
do that? Right?
Oh yeah, because it looks like Christ is literally glowing.
He's glowing. And I want to bring this up. This is totally off topic, tangent, but Osamu Tezuka does the same thing in Buddha. There's a scene where Buddha
Oh.
is approaching this kingdom and he's really far away and he hatches it out, this ball of light around him, and he's got 1,000 followers on either side following him. And it's all like, it's really, really detailed, except there's this ball of light around Buddha. And I don't like it's masterful how he pulls it off that they can see from a distance. They're like, who is that? And they point and they're like, who is that? And there's this ball of light around Buddha as they're walking down this hill. Exact same feeling I get from this one.
I will say too, I think a lot of the people of the 1800s probably don't, unfortunately, think about technical skill. They're
Yeah.
probably thinking, well, if you can paint, then of course you got to be good. They're not. because they're
Yeah, like
Philistines
I've
is what
seen
they
that
are.
before.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
if you're like a professional, there's a certain level that you have to be able to execute. So everybody is pretty good
Mm.
compared
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
the average person. But even so, like this is, yeah, you can't help but have your eyes drawn to him. Man, I also love the architecture that he's put in. It's very like if this were Atlantis sort of feel or something.
Mm. Well, Wikipedia, I'll say again, guys, if you like the audience, if you're listening and you care, just go to Wikipedia. They've got high resolution images of his work,
Oh yeah.
like a whole catalog of it. But the farther back you go, the worse the resolution gets, and then pretty soon there's like it's spotty. You can't find certain things in his career. But his career is pretty well documented, and it's very short. He only lived to the age of 51. But if you his work is also well collected. If you want to own his work, you can get it. So go out there and get it, because this guy, he's one of the original, like before regular funny paper strips started happening. Like this was just mass printing, like a just propaganda pamphlet type stuff, right? Um, yeah,
Very cool. Great choice, Colin. Like this is the
Yeah.
sort of thing I would have never thought to look up, but
yeah,
this fucking rocks.
yeah. Thanks, man.
Okay. So
I
let me
gotta.
just.
I'm gonna. God damn it. I'm gonna end up owning one of these books. I just fucking know it
Yeah,
now.
I
Bro, I'll
kind of
send
want to
you
buy
mine.
that book too. Yeah.
It was $40.
Um.
You have the Plum Plus
So
on
is
Indigo.
that the best book by your estimation?
It's Bible, man. You can't go
I
wrong with a
do. Yeah.
Bible.
Is
The,
so is
the other ones are like
that
Dante's
the
Inferno and
best
something else.
Gustave Doré?
Well, I looked at Dave's.
Okay.
Like
Would you
Dave's
say
is
that's
like
the
one of
best
those
Gustave Doré book that you can find?
today. Today, in terms of like
Oh, okay.
this one's not scarce. There's a scarce one which Dave owns, which is the one that I want. Um, but
Oh
it's
yeah.
more of like one of those tabloid sized soft cover types, from the 90s, one of those, right? And that's the one that got me sucked in, right? So I covet it a little bit. But this is the next best thing, definitely. Like I will
Yeah.
treasure this forever. So
So on to the third artist. Who do we have here, Taylor?
I went with J.C. Leyendecker. Let me just. Joseph Christian Leyendecker, born 1874, died 1951, in kind of what I would say is a harbinger of things to come. Unlike your two choices, great choices, but they're very much like artists. They're like making fucking art here. Uh,
What he isn't?
no,
well,
it's
Leyendecker?
just that, like, the setting had shifted, right? So he is mostly a commercial illustrator rather than like artistic illustrator, I guess. Most of what he did over 400 magazine covers, 322 of them for the Saturday Evening Post alone,
I
which
love those
was
Saturday evening post
oh,
covers.
yeah, which was the most anybody had done until Norman Rockwell, who would show up.
blast past them.
Uh, yeah, 20 years later. But he also did a lot of advertising work, like a lot of advertising work. Um, so
Which and
it's
his brother was an artist too. What was his brother's name?
oh, I'm not sure actually. It's I mainly went with just his artistic histories.
Are
Uh,
you thinking
Let
of
me
the
look that up.
fiction type of thing with the Wyeths, with NC Wyeth and his son Andrew?
Wasn't Frank Xavier Leyendecker an artist as well, or am I crazy?
Let's see. You're making me do this.
I
Yeah,
believe so. And you know what? That is actually that is who has painted this image. You can see it.
oh
FX
well,
line.
Okay, good thing we caught that so that the commenters.
Woo! Thank
So
God.
yeah, so there were two Leyendeckers, but JC was the famous one, I believe.
He sure was, and we'll take a
The
look at
more
why.
famous one. I think they were both successful, but
I think,
JC's.
they're all
Were they though?
successful. Yes, monetarily, yes. J.C. Leyendecker was able to own his own home that he lived in with his model friend,
Though,
a young man
From Fire
who,
Island.
yeah, yeah, a young man that, well, not so young. They
but
were,
Frank died
age
at a
appropriate.
very young age. Frank Xavier. He died in 1924, and JC died
Okay.
in 51. So there's
Yeah, he
a long
was.
time where JC was on his own.
Yep, yep. He'd worked
And Frank was
for.
younger. So, losing your younger brother, I'm sure that really affected him.
Dang.
Well, you losing
Yeah,
your older brother too. I mean, what am I saying?
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, let me
Still,
just
like
pull up
there's
the
the notion
line.
that you should outlive, like the younger should outlive the older.
well,
Sure. Yeah.
So there
Frank died at
that is like the
48.
inherent tragedy of that.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was only 48, and JC passed away when he was 71. Yes, 77.
Yeah, I
Excuse
did
me.
that. Yeah, I did that
Yeah,
calculation. Yeah,
yeah. So there
77.
was 30
So,
years there. Yeah, and he worked until he
yeah.
passed away, right? JC did. I'm pretty sure.
He did. Yeah, he was working all the
Yeah,
way up,
he
and it
was
was
77. Still young. You can still move the brush at 77. I would think. I would like to
I think
think.
as long as your hand is steady and your eye is clear, you can still be
Walt
making that.
Simonson. Case in
Exactly.
point. So
Exactly.
So these look like
So
studies.
exactly. That's what I wanted to bring up here
It's very
is
cool to see that stuff.
yeah, that's okay, there we go. Yeah, the studies because and I think this is the sort of thing that we get as we move forward in time. You get a lot more documentation, holding on to that documentation of artistic work. Like Colin, you mentioned uh, Doré had been producing stuff since he was like 5 years old, but unfortunately, I would guess most people, even his mom, probably thought, "I'm not hanging on to this." You know, they're
well,
and
that
Yeah.
no, I would disagree. I think his mother would hang on to that stuff, which is why I
okay.
think it might still be out there. I mean, he was a real
Oh, okay.
mama's boy. Since he was
But
5, his mom was hanging on to his stuff.
as you
Hmm.
go, you get more of an appreciation for what's going to be remembered, what people are going to learn. So I feel like when you see this sort of thing, you get, and then it results in, and here we go, right? You get this, you get because it's so much work that he's putting into it
Yeah.
from
So
Yeah.
each hand
different
he drew like
hands,
3 or 4 times. Like,
yeah, different positions, different configurations. The folds of the boy's pants are studied, right?
yeah.
The baby's face, like he's putting in a lot of stuff for Fourth of July, you know,
This had to
and
be
it's
photo reference too. So we probably had like a handful of photos that he's referencing.
well, I do know he did work with actual models.
I was gonna
The
say,
thing
yeah,
about
live models.
Oh,
yeah, the
so
thing
in
about
person.
photos is at the time we should remember that uh, photography as a technology is not great right out of the gate, right? Like it's not very portable. It's not
It's
it's a very
expensive.
exacting thing that is required. So it's not until the 50s, around the time of his death, that it becomes a lot more accessible for people.
Mhm.
So I think when he's using models, he is hiring like an overweight man and a small boy and a middle-aged woman and he's doing studies on them.
Hmm.
Mm.
But uh, but that's also one of the reasons I really like Leyendecker is he is not afraid to go with various like body types. But to harken back to Booth. It's not exactly the same, but the use of kind of lightening everything up and the contrast to
Right. The
push and
foreground,
pull stuff.
background.
Yeah, to push and pull stuff is it's a
Yeah, very
technique
well
that,
done.
that you want. Yeah, like she has such a ghostly image here, but it's not like she's see through, right? She's not translucent, but she does have that kind of glow that we also saw in the Doré Christ about to get crucified
Mm,
scene.
It looks like
Uh,
he's dreaming about this,
could be.
maybe.
right. And that's the thing about illustration, right? Is that illustration is communicating a
You're
story.
communicating ideas. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
a story.
Hey,
in an image. Yeah.
so slightly off topic, but do you guys,
Hmm?
Eric, would you know, or even Taylor, if the Saturday Evening Post logo was this the first magazine to start letting the graphic interfere with the logo, which became apparent in comics as well?
It might be. I've noticed it a lot through these. Yeah,
Is it because
I
it was
think it
such
might
a
be. If it's not the first, it's definitely the most prominent.
well, it was a huge publication, so like it was such a recognizable logo. I think it would be more striking to see it being, blocked or whatever, that you pick it up and like, no, this is the actual, this is the actual image.
Well, and one of the most famous magazines can afford to do that because they've just got the name recognition alone. Like you
Yeah.
see that the day, like broken up, and you just know. Whereas like a less known magazine can't afford to be hiding that logo.
Yeah. And I would guess that there's probably editorial guidelines like, okay, you can't have it happen like twice in a row, or if you're going to have that, it has to come after like, five uninterrupted logos or something like that, right? But I would guess that for something as big as the Saturday Evening Post, it's probably eye catching at times to have that logo interfered with.
Mm.
Uh,
And obviously they
this one
weren't
I
doing it every month.
grabbed. Yeah,
Yeah.
but no, but the this double line is also it looks to be part of it because there are
Yeah, it's the header. It's
what
the
yeah, but it's like he puts that in as kind of the demarcation line between even when the in his original paintings he has the double lines as like, okay, so that's where that's going to go. It's so iconic to or prominent to the logo that it's part of it. I grabbed this one because Colin, you talk about this a lot. Size,
Yeah.
uh,
size
size
relationship.
comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah, size relationship. Thank you. Yes, the like the little girl, the big umbrella. It's the little dog. You're getting a lot just all of the sudden in just this. You get the kind of busted looking umbrella.
Yeah, there's the one area that is broken, which is just
Yeah.
such a great detail. It's all about
Hmm.
the little things.
Exactly. Yeah, and you get a little bit of rain coming down too.
Yeah, contrasting
Uh,
against the black.
Here again is more studies because I grabbed a lot of studies because I really appreciate them. The thing that I really like about Leyendecker is he and I are not at all alike.
Really?
He is like the amount of work that he is putting in. This is the sort of thing I need to do. I need to put more work in.
Mm.
I need to accept my first idea ain't necessarily going to be the best and figure out, is it this fist or is it this one? I don't know.
Mm.
But when
Well,
you
now I'm excited to grill you about the piece you did for this episode.
it actually has nothing to do with any of these. It's just
I'm just
another piece.
So
wondering
it's
if
not Colonel
you
Sanders.
followed this advice that you
Nope,
or
not at all.
no. Next episode.
Next time, yeah. Continuing the glove pervert
Ah,
theme that we have established as well.
Yeah, we're a big fan of how illustrators draw gloves on this
Yeah,
show.
exactly. Yeah.
but the
But
And
logo
just
it's
about
again.
amazing, just such an amazing illustration of that glove. Just
it really
perfect.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the way it curls around the curved, like it's curved in two ways, right? You're wrapping your hand around it, but then your hand has to also wrap around the wheel. it's very well observed,
Yeah.
and then to put a glove over top of it, like that's great. Sorry, Colin, what were you saying about
Well, just I was
the
going to bring
logo?
up again, the logo gets blocked by the graphic. So
Yeah, and I wonder if it's something more like there are artists will allow to do it.
Leyendecker allowed to do it.
You, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
This is interesting if you just go back. I'm not a painter. I haven't been trained in it. I've just dabbled, but he's like blocking in the white on top of. So I guess he's starting with beige paper,
Mhm.
and he wants white. So he's putting white paint down. I guess that's a very important part of his approach. Is he starts off with an off-white paper.
Yeah, it tends to be a toned thing. It looks like, and then when he needs white, he'll put that down. Uh,
But he does it in a
yeah,
very like he's not
it's
concerned with making it pure white. He's adding texture.
and I think that's because he knows it's going to press. Like this is not how it will ultimately appear.
Mm.
It will appear much like this, but due to the transfer effect, like the process of transferring it, that white will be dropped out.
But oh, but I like
I
he
think.
wants it to look like this. He could have filled more of the white in. He
Yeah,
likes
he
the
could have.
look of it.
Yeah.
He just likes the
And
textural look. He has
he
to.
really does love the yeah,
That's
he
in
does.
most. That's in a lot of his pieces.
Oh, yes. Let me see if I can. No, you know what? We'll go. No, we'll. Yeah,
We'll
you
come
can see
across it.
like
Yeah.
the textural work in a lot of this. Um, Things get a lot more not stringy, but he's definitely thinking more along the lines of texture. Um, this one just I grabbed because it's nothing but movement. This is it's a still image. It's still conveying like this horse is dragging this thing. Everyone is in constant motion. The tension of the arms holding those reins. The
It feels like
yeah
one half of a wraparound cover or a diptych or something like that because it just I don't know.
Well, I was gonna say that it feels like his intent was for it to feel very claustrophobic and
Yeah, oh,
in
getting
I
that
guess
vibe.
in the action.
Yeah.
yeah. What's weird about it is there is another one that is very similarly named. I can't quite remember the name of this right now, but there's another one, and it looks exactly the same, or at least to my eyes, it looked exactly the same, and I
Mm.
cannot tell the difference. But and I didn't want to waste space. I just wanted to grab like what can we learn from Leyendecker here, and yeah, every piece of movable, unanchored objects are in motion from the ends of the whip to the cape to everything.
Mm.
And I always wonder what like how long the process was to learn how this stuff looks in print. Like you can create an amazing painting. You can slave over it and it looks amazing in person, but then you send it to the printer and you find out. So I wonder like how many covers it took for him to like have color
Yeah,
figured out.
yeah, it'd be difficult to know. Yeah, because it's got to be a trial and error thing, right?
Yeah. But you
This I
do enough
wanted,
of it and you got it figured out.
yeah, this I wanted to bring up, not for anything specific in it, other than blam. To me, this feels like he's got like in his head, he has got specific uh, compositions that he kind of keeps going back to.
Mm.
Oh, interesting. So,
Especially
uh,
the Harlequin and Santa Claus there.
right.
Uh, you can see they're kind of like, oh yeah, they're both kind of doing the same thing. They're both elevated. They've got the one leg up, and I know it's often it can kind of come across as lazy, but I do think it is valuable to have kind of default things to go to when you need something. when you need to communicate something.
Well, also, what about like what do you think of like studio space and composition, like where he set the stage and his stool and just he had two actors in the or two models in the morning, two in the afternoon. He's like, just you're behind this one, you just stand there and he'll just go for it, break for lunch, and then he gets the next one in because he's on a deadline for both covers for both this whole assignment, right? So
Yeah,
yeah, he just kind of adopted the same composition. He probably used the same actor for the foreground guy. Um,
probably, and probably referred to his own study drawings as
yeah,
well.
yeah. Like I'm just speculating that. I mean, I'm trying to think of how I would get it done. You know.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing too, right? Is all of our choices, like, they have deadlines to hit. They
No.
have they don't have the luxury of like de Medici's funding their lavish lifestyles or anything,
Yeah.
right? They have they got bills to pay and studio space to pay for, and
Yeah.
And artists have highs and lows, and you have
yeah,
moments of high inspiration and moments of low inspiration, and so sometimes you just have to default to something tried and tested.
Mm.
and there's something to the idea too that like these are both for Kuppenheimer clothes.
Yeah.
Is it that important that you don't repeat elements? Not nearly as much as say something like this,
I
which
was
is
waiting for you to get to this one. This is my
yeah.
favorite of the whole batch.
Am I thinking what you're thinking, Colin? Like it reminds you of a certain famous painting?
Well, not only that, the Kiss from Gustav Klimt, but
Hmm.
Gustav
um,
Klimt.
That's why
That's
I
what I
grabbed
this
see
it.
when I look at this. Yeah.
Yep.
100%. But what stands out for me is this again, I'm the size relationship guy, but this composition, two figures take up the entire canvas, and there's still a fully realized background, like a whole world behind
Hmm.
them that just sucks
Oh
you
yeah.
in, right?
Yep.
And just the
Yeah.
obviously the posing and everything, it's very soft and at the same time intense. I don't know, like if that makes sense. The colors
No,
are really
absolutely. Yeah.
rich and dark, especially in the male
Yeah. On the
figure.
one hand,
Yeah,
her arm is like stiff out, but on the other hand, but the other one is curled in towards him. Like there's this push and pull between the
yeah.
two. You can come up with a story
Mm.
instantly with this, and he's put so much detail into what she's wearing, what he's wearing, how it
Yeah,
relates to the background. Like that's not a sphinx, but it's sphinx like.
yeah. What is this one
Now we can.
called? What is this for? Does
Ooh,
it say?
let me. I have them all named. Let me pull this up though.
I would believe if this is like a sci-fi novel or something,
Hmm.
kind of like a John Carter type of deal.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, but let me see if I can find. Uh, no, unfortunately, it didn't come with a name.
Daggone it.
Yeah, but a lot of these didn't too, right? A lot of them are spot illustrations or just for advertisements. So he's not really giving them names. Um, let me see if I can find.
Man, there's a lot of good
Whatever.
stuff in this file that you've compiled here. I'm just skipping ahead a little.
Thank you. Yeah, because I also wanted to give a breadth of like this is a pretty graphic. These are the next few are pretty graphic in terms of they're not really communicating reality like say this one. Like you could imagine this actually happening,
Mm.
but this gets like real symbolic. Gloria in excelsis Deo.
Yeah, definitely getting the Muka vibes there.
Yeah, and
The
well,
what?
Alphonse Mucha, and
Ah,
yeah, I
okay.
was going to say that as well because he's got an sort of an outline on the figures as opposed to the last one, which is more painterly, and there
Hmm.
isn't like a cartoonist outline
Yeah.
around the figures. Um, that's a part of his style, which is interesting because it's something I associate more with illustrators rather than painters. If that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of where we see the the collision. This around this time is the collision of the two, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
It's because you're looking for some amount of realism, but you also want to show the hand of the artist. There's the encroachment of photography. It's getting better and better as we go, and by the time Norman Rockwell comes along, uh, it will be a gradual supplanting of these sorts of illustrations. So they're kind of having to, you know, show what they are good at now, right? Like, you can't get this with a photo. This isn't happening with a photo.
Yeah.
Or this. Like, look at this.
Yeah, I've got
And
a lot to say
there
about
was a
this one.
there's a
Yeah.
conversation going on about AI, and do you think they were having a very similar conversation back then about photography versus illustration?
I think, I think there's probably similar, but not in the
Well, do you
same
not think the
way.
I mean,
rebellion
I
was
I
the
think
postmodern era? Was the rebellion against photography? Photography, lump it in with the realistic art and all that kind of stuff.
I
Yeah.
just think the similar conversation would be people being apocalyptic about, like, is this the
Yeah.
end of my craft?
Yeah. Yeah.
Am I going to
And
be replaced by something shitty? Like,
yeah, and in a lot of ways, it was, right? Like, how often do you see full, detailed, painted illustrations these days?
yeah, and like if you go back to that previous one, like you you can't have a photograph of that. Like
No.
there's so much detail, and I don't mean detail in the sense of like amount of lines put on there, but I'm just like the amount of information that's being put on there. So much to dissect when it comes to meaning that comes
Yeah.
from him being an illustrator rather than someone taking a photograph.
Yeah. And this is why, for instance, we don't see this is the sort of thing that why we don't see things like photo comics, right? I've often heard,
Fumetti.
yeah, fumetti, the second definition of fumetti, because fumetti also refers to just Italian comics in general. For some, I have no idea why there's a difference. I don't know why
Because
they
there
were.
was an era where I don't know anything, but maybe there was an era where there were a lot of photo comics coming out of Italy, and it just got cemented.
Could be, yeah. But what they quickly discover is, boy, it's expensive to have a guy dress up like Spider-Man and hang off of a uh, fire escape and then photograph that.
That's the story behind that Mark Miller project,
85. Yeah.
1983 or 80,
Okay.
85. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
for they actually had a full set, and they were photographing models for a full week before they realized this is too expensive. They canceled it all, and then they got Tommy Lee Edwards to
Right.
draw it instead.
Right. Yeah, I'd heard that story because it was supposed to tie into a bunch of his other stuff going on at the same time.
Yeah.
Colin, what do you want to say about this?
Well, I was mainly going to comment on if he is using live models, uh, sitting, kneeling down position with your toes curled like that is agony after a while.
Yeah.
So he would have
Yeah.
had to have just quickly got it drawn in and like, okay, take a break, and then okay, get back into position, and then carry on. Along with that, though, if he really didn't take photos, then I give him a lot of credit for having like a photographic memory, or he's just really rich and he can afford all these props. Because if you see the screen above the figures, that's a very organic
Hmm.
wooden screen, right? That's hand carved screen. You can see that, and along with that, the long, or excuse me, the large gold discs that frame each of their heads, he would have either had to have put the actual disc there behind them and then drawn it each individually, or he did it after the fact, like they didn't have it there. Um, and
I
this
think
is
that's
like,
exactly what's happening. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
there's other
I think
effects too, like the smoke coming from the incense tray, that the hands are, look at the hands holding the incense tray.
Hmm.
well, I
Never
mean,
mind the smoke, but
I'm sure he was not a slave to the reference.
I
Like,
don't think
it's not
he
like he
was.
was copying everything one for one. He just had the figures in similar outfits, and then he improvised the rest, or he
Mm.
just did studies. So, I mean, I don't think he had this background lying around, and he might not even had actual smoke in the air, but he's not a slave to reference. He knows how to draw smoke.
Mm.
No, yeah, because he went to the Art Institute of Chicago. That's where he learned to. That's where he learned to draw, and I think, and just create art in general. And I think a lot of it is he's just kind of pulling from. Okay, well, I have done this before, so I can do it again,
Mm.
right? Like, and going to a large part of going to art school is just draw this human standing here now as
Mm.
fast as you can, right? Like, I remember the
Yeah, I
first
remember those
half
days.
hour of every 3 hour drawing session would be 30
Spaghetti.
second, 15 seconds sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, just go. Just get these gestures
Yeah.
in. Just go as fast as possible. Doesn't matter if it's good, doesn't matter if it's bad. It's just to get you going and being in that headspace. Yeah. Yeah, just the gesture drawings, right? Just
For a half an hour.
And
Yep.
going back to what I said before, just if you draw the arm enough, you might
Yeah,
not even be able to name the muscles in that arm, but you just know how that arm works.
Mm.
exactly. Speaking of arms.
Yeah, look at that hand. Both those
Yeah.
hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is what I also this is the section that I want to focus on. The way he has people interacting with each other. Um, the way this guy is hanging off him, just and then you've got this line down, and you've got these guys tackling each other. Like, it's the sort of thing that I wish I had learned more of, and you unfortunately can't really get it without just grinding away at it. But humans interacting with each other, the effects that we have on each other, and then communicating that effect.
Mm.
Yeah. It's very lively.
Yeah. So that you get stuff like this,
Yeah,
right?
that kid. That's
Yeah.
that is alive. That's like you can hear that kid crying.
Right? Yeah. But even in, things like his hand is not like, that's not, oh my God, my mom is pulling my hand and it's, and the pull of the coat. I
There's some
keep reading this as
cartooning.
a phone.
There's some
Yes.
cartooning going on there because that woman is exaggerated just enough to be a
Mm-hmm.
caricature, but like not fully realistic. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's a happy middle ground.
It is, yeah. And I think that's what we see in these sorts of illustrations, these more mass commercial illustrations, is just pushing things. Like the kid's mouth, it's
Yeah.
just a bit too big, it's just a bit too distorted, but that is the point of this, is to push reality just enough to convey the motion, the sound, the and probably the smell too. Like, this
Yeah,
kid he looks gross.
and that's
His
the thing
hands
is
are sticky.
if it was more realistic, we would not be saying, "Hey, I can hear that kid screaming."
Yeah, yeah.
I
You'd be
just want to,
thinking,
if you go
oh yeah,
back, sorry, but also on top of all what you guys just said, the textures. There's
mm-hmm.
one, two, three, four, five different textures just off the rip, like with the mane
Yeah.
on her
In
jacket,
perspective.
and
Yep,
in the foreshortened arm with the mink cuff, the fur cuff, and then the wrapping paper and all the fucking presents, and then the
Yeah.
reef under the guy's
the
arm.
wreath. Yep, yep.
And
And
then
then
you got
the
you've got the buttons, you've got the fur coat for the kid, his hat, like, and then the
yeah,
vase falling off the table. Like, there's so many different responsibilities he has to pull this off, right?
yeah.
Yeah. What is with him in Christmas? Because I guess I associate him with Christmas quite a bit.
I think it's just because that's what he is
I
asked to draw. It is a huge.
I
Go ahead.
associate him with America, the American dream.
Yeah, he does do a lot of holidays in general. July the 4th also pops up, and I think just because they really want him to capture that feel of like the chaos of
Americana.
shopping. Yeah, exactly.
Americana
Americana.
during holidays.
Yeah,
Americana.
the chaos of
Americana.
shopping or anything.
Yeah.
But that said, like this is also the sort of thing that, like, man, I wish I could get. I mean, I probably could, right? It's not as if it's impossible, but this isn't the sort of thing that you learn in art school. This is the sort of thing that you have to get through. Like, okay, wait, let me find a reference for that. Wait, let me figure out how do bodies interact.
I have I have also this weird kind of fantasy that Chris Botchlow looked at this image and it just set off a whole another facet of his creativity. Like if you
Go
look at
on.
the couple kissing, the long lashes and the long lids with their eyes closed,
Mm,
he's prone to that, you know, and
that's
also the
true.
long noses, just the whole jawline, everything about it, the hair
Yep.
for both figures, the pose of
Yeah.
them both in an embrace, and the hands, the way the hands. Come on, look at those fingers, Eric. Eric, you're
Yeah.
kind
Look
of
at
on the
that.
fence. I see you're on the fence. Look at those fingers, Eric.
Look at the way
I,
it's
I, I was on the fence, but I think you've sold me a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah,
interwoven into
it's
the hair.
Botchalo.
Yeah, it's yeah.
There was a time where
It's
Botchalo either he Googled this. No, it would have been way too far, long ago. He just came across this in a textbook or something, and he all of a sudden,
Well, I think you
throughout
went to
the
art
years,
school, so
yeah, well, yeah, yeah, sure.
it's crazy how sculpted that hair looks. Like it looks like
Mm.
a
it
statue.
is. Yeah. And I think that's
It's part of his style, I guess.
this is a detail of a larger image. So I think
Oh,
in
okay.
the because I did have the larger, like the full image, but I thought, no, we want to see the detail. And I
Well,
think pulled
maybe this
back,
was
it would
meant to
look a
be.
lot.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It would look less less sculpted,
Right.
zoomed out,
It was
but
meant to be seen at a very specific size, not meant to
yeah,
be looked at with a microscope, I guess.
yeah. And then yeah, I just wanted to grab just a bunch of other, like, these are all great interactions. The effects that people have on each other. As we were
So
talking,
there's no doubt that Norman Rockwell was like probably grew up on
look at this,
Leyendecker, or
look at this texture. I think so, but
Yeah, 100%.
it's difficult to say. Yeah,
did 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 Norman Rockwell steal Leyendecker's thing?
I wouldn't say he
maybe.
stole. I think he's just a natural influence.
Yeah, and it's also that Saturday Evening Post wanted a very specific thing, I guess.
I think they knew each other as well. So, like, if you just Control F Rockwell in the J.C. Leyendecker Wikipedia article, he comes up 10 times.
Hooey.
Okay, so they were contemporaries. It's
Leyendecker was
not
a
that.
chief influence and friend of Norman Rockwell, who was a pallbearer at Leyendecker's funeral. In particular,
Huh.
the early work of Norman Rockwell for the Saturday Evening Post bears a strong superficial resemblance to that of Leyendecker. While today it is generally accepted that Norman Rockwell established the best-known visual images of Americana, in many cases they are derivative of Leyendecker's work, or reinterpretations of visual themes established by Rockwell's idol.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And Rockwell became a bigger, more well known,
Yeah, and I
more
think because
associated with
he
this Americana.
And I think because he,
Well, there's a
to my mind anyway, Rockwell pushes the cartooniness just even further.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. What else have we got? Oh, yes. More studies. Uh,
Oh, interesting. It's
yeah,
always
just
fun
because,
seeing this stuff.
yeah, just the amount of work that he puts in to figuring out, okay, so where's her face going to be and what's it going to look like and what's everything that's going to be around her? Like
He
he is
drew that face.
methodical.
He drew the face like 3 times before he drew the final one.
Yeah, like
And
he's
that's like
methodical.
But that's like a nightmare too, because sometimes you get it right on the second try, and like the second try is the best face, probably better than the final face, and it's
Mm.
just you're fighting because you're trying to get it close to that study.
Yeah, true. But it's, you know, you got to put the reps in.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
Got to make
and you got to hand
sure
it
that
in.
you know that that's the face.
No art is truly done. It's all art is just abandoned.
Yeah.
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 I think going back to what you were saying though, between Rockwell and Leyendecker, like in terms of popularity, it's clear that Rockwell was is far better known than Leyendecker was.
It is. Yeah.
But you can associate things like that to down to just overall distribution and population and like like Doré died in 1883, and the world population wasn't even a billion people, and that was 100 years
Yeah.
ago before we were born, right? I was born in
Hmm.
1983, so Dory died 100 years before I was born. And at the time, the population then was what, 4 or 5 billion people? Like it had already increased by 4 or 5 times. Like I think if you kind of drag Dory to today's times, he'd be far more popular than he was back then, right?
Yeah. In no, that's a great point. In 1951, the world population had already increased to 2.5 billion, and that
Yeah,
was what, 80 years, less than 80 years later. Like, yeah, the and so and it just keeps climbing from there. Within by 1967, the world population has added yet another billion people
wow.
from the time that Leyendecker died. So you're right. It's reach. You're just getting more people. The technology is improving.
Mm.
Shipping and supply lines are improving. You're just getting more and more exposure to things up
Yeah, and I think
until what, 2005, when everything kind of shatters and we stop experiencing the same things anymore.
like platinum selling records and stuff like that. I was reading
Exactly. Yeah. Is there going to be another
Monoculture.
Thriller? Probably
well, it's some
not.
kind of I was reading some kind of statistic where the Beatles, any of the Beatles albums, or even Michael Jackson's Thriller is like doesn't has not sold nearly as many copies as like Taylor Swift's thing or Katy Perry or whoever.
Huh,
Like just because
interesting.
it's because of population. It's just because there's more
Mhm.
people today. There's more people listening to the music. You can apply the same thing in art. You know.
Yeah.
Like there's a huge influx
Uh,
of artists, comic artists today from third world countries that are actually being, scooped up by the big two, by big time publishers because they work for cheap. Like let's be honest, they work for cheap, but they're influenced by Western art. You know.
mhm.
Well, yeah, and also
Oh,
there's the generous conversion with the American money,
yeah.
and on top of
Well,
that, the
yeah,
internet just united the world, made it easier to, in the '60s you needed to live in New York to draw comics.
Yep. Yep.
then in
Now
the
You had to
you can
70s
be
be
and
there.
80s
anywhere.
they started outsourcing to the Philippines, which I think they still do to this day. The Alfaro Alcala and all those guys.
In the
Yeah,
80s, John Byrne was able to he just FedExed pages it, you know?
yeah, from Calgary.
Mm.
Yeah. Jim Lee as well. He would just send them in.
I've
From
heard
San
horror
Diego.
stories about that
Yeah.
though. Like I think it was Michael
Oh,
Turner
yeah.
FedEx some pages and they just got no J. Scott Campbell. There was some artist that did like a whole issue of something, a well-known one in the '90s, and it just
Humberto Ramos, I remember
Oh,
I think Jimmy Palmiotti inked the whole thing and then sent it off with a delivery service, and it just got lost. And
brutal.
and
so
doesn't
Jimmy
that just
Palmiotti had to
kill
sort of
you?
like take the
Like
thumbnails and recreate the entire comic. And so you
yeah.
have like it's like one Ash comic that yeah, it does not look like a typical Humberto Ramos, but it's a Humberto Ramos comic.
Mm.
So we come to the end of my assemblage here, and I just wanted to show, like, so we've seen a lot of the same similar stuff, right? But a reminder that, like, you don't have to be locked into one style. This is just
Yeah.
pencil on paper. This is charcoal and gouache. that he's using, opaque watercolor, and then you get this like highly graphic. Like you thought the two women around the savior, what was it? It had a kick-ass name. Oh yeah, Gloria in Excelsis Dio. You think that's graphic? Not compared to these two. The
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crimson
Yeah. No,
Conquest.
you're
How
right,
rad
dude.
is that?
Yeah, that's
And
a good
and
way
his
to close
ability
it.
to do all these styles only strengthens his regular style.
Yeah, which I thought tied nicely into this episode.
You know,
You gotta stretch to
Yeah,
find
good
what you're
point.
going for.
for both of your guys' picks, so for Booth and for Leyendecker, I can see all throughout everything we've seen, like right off the bat, I've seen like Dave Johnson, J.H. Williams III, all these different artists and their covers, their famous covers for, books like Detective Comics or whatever, from just looking at Leyendecker stuff. And then the same for Booth.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of Booth's hatch techniques and things I've seen in Barry Windsor Smith,
Frank
Charles
Quietly.
Vest, yeah, Frank Quietly, Charles Vest, Bernie Wrightson, all those guys. Like, like I can see how they just spawn. Without them, we wouldn't have what we got. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
yeah. We're all standing on each other's shoulders,
Which is why I
trying
think
to
it's
learn.
important that the three of us learn about these artists a little bit more, because it'll only strengthen our own art.
well, again,
Yeah,
these three artists are all easily, you can just wiki them. All of their careers are well storied, well documented. You can
huge
find
bodies of
high
work. Yeah,
resolution images of much of their major works. Just get out there and look at the stuff and dissect the stuff and do studies on the stuff. Like, just
Buy the
read,
books.
buy the books if you can find them. You can find Dory's books. I don't know about Booth's, but uh,
check out
yeah,
what's available at your local
yeah.
library. These were the sorts of things that I remember populating libraries when I was a kid, and thought this is boring as hell. Now I really wish I'd taken a deeper look.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was such a stupid dummy too when I was young.
Right? Ugh, being a
What an
kid,
idiot!
fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Ugh. All right. Do you
All
want
right.
to?
Taylor, did you do art this week?
Okay, so I didn't. I will say I have art. I didn't. It's not specifically for this,
That's understandable. Yeah.
but now that I know that issue 4 of Assorted Crisis Events is now out this week, I got this for you. There you go.
Oh.
Hooey, the
Oh, nice.
Traveler, the
Exactly.
man out of
The
time.
Broken Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Broken Man will save reality for food.
Nice. Very cool.
That's really cool, man.
Yeah, so just had just playing around with some tones and trying to figure out space, and yeah, just kind of lined up really well.
Right
Oh
on.
yeah. Yeah, I gotta see that in person
Yeah, for
next
sure.
time I see you,
Mm-hmm.
because the seeing it on the screen probably doesn't do it justice.
Probably not. No, no, it got quite muddy on the screen there, or that's me not understanding this medium. One of the two.
But I was gonna grill you earlier. You were saying what makes you different from Leyendecker, and what you want
Oh,
to learn and adapt to yours. So, is that your plan to? Sorry, what did you say earlier? To do more planning, or
do more planning. Yeah, like look at this, right? The amount of
takes a lot
research
of
that
time
he's
though.
it does, but I think I think we can see the amount of the quality that you get from, okay, you know what? I'm going to go with this one instead of this one. Yeah, I need a he's doing folds of pants studies. It's the sort of thing that, boy, do I wish I didn't need it.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, I do. You gotta admit your own limitations and just kind of and lean into what you need to work on.
Well, I
So
mean, yeah, just do more life drawing. Just yeah, well, like what I
yeah,
said earlier about. But I mean, the fun of these shows is tracking all our development, and I'm going to grill you next episode. Did you take some Leyendecker lessons and apply it?
You bet I did. I have actually already started.
I'm going to ask you that next episode, because I'm going to say, with this piece, did you do what you said you'd do? Just because, again, that's the fun of this, is we're tracking each other's development.
Yes. Now the back asswards way I've done these watercolors is going to pay off. You'll see.
You're getting the stuff done, though. Like every episode, pretty much, you created a piece. So.
Yeah, I've got one for our upcoming one too. So.
Oh yeah. And
yeah.
Eric, do you have anything to add before we close out? Last words.
I mean, all I have to say is that I've got Assorted Crisis Events issue 4 is out in stores right now. It's it's a good one. It's and the coloring is bold as usual by the brilliant Jordi
Belair. She's the GOAT.
Yeah, it's a fun one. I had to play with time speeding up, and so I had to find a very specific comics way of showing time just moving way too quickly for this one person. And montage. It's all about creating montages. If you lose the panel borders, like, things seem to be speeding up. So yeah, you get a lot of montages.
Don't spoil too much, man.
We're all at issue 4. Audience, go get this book. You want to be able to say, I was reading it since issue 1. Because this comic is going to go down as super important.
Yes. 100%.
Maybe. Who knows?
Nope, it is. I think it's...
Well, we don't write the history books, but I will try my best. But yeah, that was a fun one. Hopefully we do some more episodes like this in the future. Because I want to learn more about not necessarily Golden Age illustrators, but all artists all throughout history. But I don't know. I have a soft spot for the Golden Age illustrators, I suppose.
Oh yeah.
I would say that was the era that really spawned just comics in general, and not just comics, but just illustrated books, magazines. It took them to another level, and that sort of thing before the photographs took over. Yeah.
And what survived photographs too?
Because it was all done. It was all done like by hand. There's no cheating involved in any of this, right?
Yeah.
Assistance aside, like, a lot of these artists had staffs, handling a lot of the groundwork for them. But the initial idea, like, you can see how much research and preparation was put into a lot of the work that we just showed you today, and that is why it's considered the golden age of illustration, is because it was a pure mastery of the art form.
Yeah,
right on.
Cool.
Yeah. And we got a lot more coming. So, but yeah, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. We have a lot of cool episodes coming up for you guys. We're going to look into the history of Image Comics. What do we got? So we got Darwin Cook coming up, Barry Windsor Smith, Frank Quietly for you guys. More Arthur Adams. So yeah, don't forget to.
And I would ask people to comment, like, who do you want us to cover?
Yeah, let us know.
Should we start covering?
We love it all. We'll do it all. So yeah.
Yep. The stuff we don't know about, I can't wait to find out about.
But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Cool.